everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome again to our third live that we are conducting under the Wildlife Ambassador Program. Short um, overview of what will happen today. We'll have a presentation on zoonosis, mange and ringworm, and then we will move on to Jaguar Conflict and hear what Yaxche is doing with Jaguar Conflict down in the Mayaguelan landscape in the south. And then we will go over some illegal wildlife crime animals that we have received here at the clinic. And all in between these presentations, we will have some trivia questions for you guys to answer, from which you can win a prize or two, right? So to start off, um, we would like to extend an invitation for people who are interested in wildlife conservation to send us an email at leeswildlifeambassador at gmail.com if you want to be a part of the Wildlife Ambassador program. Get some free trainings in regards to human wildlife conflict, illegal wildlife trade and trafficking, and One Health as part of zoonosis.
That is right, guys. And happy to be here once more with you all. And thank you for joining. We'll ask you to share the live so that we can reach to more people. Tag your friends, all your wildlife enthusiast friends and families. You can tag them there on the comment section. And hey, you can all say hi. I see no comments so far. You can say hi, how it's going, where you're watching from. And what you expect to learn today and what you would like to learn in other days coming. Again, we have this going on monthly, and you can uh, give us suggestions as to what you want to learn, what you want to see more about, and we're very open to teaching you whatever you would like to hear more about. So, hi, Mr. Lowen. Sib, how's it going, man? Hope everything is all right, and hope you enjoy the live for today. We have some very good content for you all today. Hello, Glendy. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Share it on your wall. Share it on your story. Share it with friends. And again, like Calvin said, if you want to be an ambassador, join us. Join us. We have workshops starting early on um, January, so you can join us and be a part of this wildlife ambassador program.
All right, and getting into some clinic stuff, we have some our limited edition clinic shirts for sale for 30 $30. Don't You make a donation of $30 and receive a shirt. Or you can also make a donation of $10 and receive a free calendar. And we can start off with talking a little bit about the calendars, maybe. No.
They should be showing on screen, but it's lagging. Yeah, but um, we have five designs of calendars. You want to go over those, Calvin, real quick? Which designs we have available?
We have a design from Chicky the Jaguar. We have some Scarlet Macaw pictures, Kinkajou, some baby green iguanas, and Margot or boa constrictor.
That's right. So these are really cool 2022 calendars, guys, and each one of them have a backstory. All of them patients, of course, of the clinic. So if you are interested, let us know. Send us an email, a message, and we'll be there to serve you. So let us know if you're interested in these calendars, and they're readily available to purchase. We don't have an infinite amount, so make sure you send your um, requests real quick before they finish. All right. So
All right. So without um, further further ado, we could start off with the first trivia question for today, and the question is coming up on screen in a bit.
it's a rainy day, so losing a bit of signal, but it should show up anytime. Just look it quickly. For the live guys, we're so glad you joined us today, and thank you for being with us. Um, it's a pleasure knowing we have an audience that's always there, ready to join us when it comes to these things, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys for being with us always. All right, so there is the first quiz question. I'm gonna leave it to Calvin to read it.
All right. So the first trivia question we have for today is an identification question. What do you know about me? Check all that applies. So this question has more than one answer. We have a picture there on the right. And the options are: I am an agouti or a bush rabbit. I am a gibbet, also known as the royal rat. And the Latin word for name for this species is agouti parka. I am a tapir. I am a juvenile. I am an adult. I am a game species. I, I am Belize's national animal. And the last option is I cannot be hunted legally. So to answer this question, just put the letter for the corresponding answer you want in the comment section, and the first person that we see on the comment section that answers the question correctly is the one that will get the prize. Right?
I'll tell you what you get, what you win in just a few. Right, so multiple answers, right, Calvin? Is that various answers? So
Yes, that's
so
right.
select all that apply.
Okay. So we'll get to
Hello.
all right. We're having some
Here we
short
are.
technical difficulties, but nothing we can um, get out of, right? So um, moving on into our first topic for today, which is the zoonosis. And we have a presentation by Dr. Isabel talking about mange and ringworm.
But did Lewin win the prize? Is it correct already? Is it correct? You guys can still send your answers. Send your answers just in case. And at the end of the presentation, we say who won. Right. So
Yes. All right. So here's the presentation for mange and ringworm.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today in another zoonosis talk, explaining once again why protecting animals and the environment ultimately protects yourself. Today we're going to try to get under your skin a little bit, and by popular demand, today's topic is mange and dermatophytes, or commonly called also ringworm. My name's Dr. Isabel. So yeah, common zoonotic skin diseases. We are talking about two conditions today with mange and ringworm, and we're lumping them together because they both affect the skin, but they are indeed quite different. So as in all of our zoonosis talks, we're going to first present what are the causing agents of these diseases. Then we will talk about prevalence and how common these diseases are. We will briefly introduce what these diseases look like in animals, as well as what does it look like in humans. Then we will present how do we get it, how can we diagnose it and know that we have it, and of course, last but not least, and most importantly, how do we avoid getting this disease, talking about prevention, a little bit about treatment, and then in the very end, I have some resources for you for further information and guidance as well. So let's jump into it and reintroduce the One Health concept, which connects the health of humans to the health of our animals, both domestic as well as wild, and the shared environment between us all. And we do so because we realize that when we protect one, we actually protect them all. We wanted to remind you once again that zoonotic diseases are diseases that are shared between animals and people, and they can be transferred in both directions. And if you have seen some of our previous talks, then you may remember that more than half of the infections that humans get are actually spread between animals and people, aka zoonotic diseases. This is what makes these diseases so important, as well as animal health important to human health. So some general remarks first on these skin diseases and their connection to One Health. It is, first of all, very, very common to see signs of skin infections and lesions in our domestic animals as well as wildlife on intake. Skin infections are the most common infections in both animal as well as human medicine. The effects of these infections are very variable. So it can be just a simple irritation, and it can lead all the way to life-threatening conditions in some cases. Something that is important about both of these conditions is that both humans and animals can be infectious, meaning they can infect others without they themselves showing signs. And then, especially for the ringworm, the fungal stages, they can survive a long time in the environment. So some of those fungal and parasitic diseases can infect you and your children and cause severe zoonotic rashes. It is important to realize that these diseases can only be identified with the help of a complete examination, and in most cases, microscopy. So we cannot identify them just from the looks, even though there may be some more typical looks for one or the other. It always requires further diagnostic and a complete examination. So let's talk about causing agents. First of all, we have two diseases here, as mentioned. We have sarcoptic mange, also called scabies or sarna in Spanish, and there are other common names. This is caused by an acarid, which is a mite, and the family is Sarcoptes. The species is Sarcoptes scabiei. This is one species, but there is further research going on into potential genetic differences between them in different host species. Our second disease today, the so-called ringworm, is also in humans, sometimes called tinea, or the causing agents in general are classified as dermatophytes, which translates into skin fungi. It's in the class of fungi, and there are around 40 different species of dermatophytes. And common names involved here are Trichophyton, Microsporum, and Epidermophyton, for example. And here we have two images. Now here, this is the mite that causes sarcoptic mange. And then here we actually do not have images of the fungi, but we have images of the typical lesions here. Now, to how common is this? The prevalence for both of these diseases is very high. So it is very common. If we're talking about sarcoptic mange, it is very common in animals. It is actually described as one of the most commonly diagnosed skin diseases in dogs, that is, and it can infect a huge range of other species. So over 100 different species can become infected. Other species, aside dogs that are very important to us as pets that infect humans frequently, can be pocket pets as well. But of course, also wildlife species. In wildlife species, sarcoptic mange is causing more and more concerns, and it is often spread from domestic animals to wildlife. In humans, according to the World Health Organization website, there are an estimated 200 million people infected at one time with sarcoptic mange. And in certain poor areas, it's up to 10% of children that are suffering from scabies. However, in the environment, the prevalence is not as high for sarcoptic mites. That is because they are deep burrowing mites and they do not survive very long in the environment, thankfully. If we talk about ringworm, which is a fungus, this is worldwide very common, not just in animals, but also in humans. Extremely common, with estimates of up to 25% of the global population infected with skin fungi. It is also extremely common in domestic and wild animals. For both of these diseases, many species can be infected asymptomatically. What that means is they don't show any signs, yet they carry these disease agents. So we have here as examples for very common sources for us, dogs, cats, cows, sheep, but many wildlife species as well. And as opposed to sarcoptic mites, fungal stages are very resistant in the environment and can remain infectious for a next host for, here it was stated, between 12 and 20 months. So what does it look like in animals? Here is an example of one of our patients that was diagnosed with sarcoptic mange. This is a baby coati already a few weeks into the disease, after treatment with no more open sores, but a lot of hair loss, obvious. So in this case, this was not asymptomatic, but it had a lot of crusts, very hardened skin, scabs, and erosions that with treatment eventually resolved. And then another 4 to 6 weeks later, the little animal started regrowing hair with the elimination of these mites. So sarcoptic mange affects young animals as well as adult animals. It will affect immunocompromised animals or chronically ill wildlife more so than healthy animals. And very often sarcoptic mange is further complicated by secondary bacterial or fungal infections. It is very itchy in general, both in animals as well as humans. Sarcoptic mange can cause very, very severe itch. So ringworm in animals can again be without symptoms. Similar to mange, it will lead to hair loss, which in the case of ringworm can be circular, so the name of ringworm, these round lesions, but that is not always so. In most cases of fungal skin infections, these develop very slowly, so over the course of weeks, and they tend to cause a little less itch than our mite infestations. We can see a single lesion, we can also see multiple lesions, and this can also be generalized and be very, very serious at that point. So this affects, again, young animals more, but it can also affect adults, and similar to mange, or even more so, fungal infections affect immunocompromised animals much more so than healthy individuals. And again, similar to mange, fungal infections are often also complicated by bacterial and or parasitic infections. So how do we get it? Three main ways, and this applies to both. So in both scabies or ringworm, we can acquire this through direct contact with an infected human. So we do not just get this disease from animals, but we can also spread it from human to human. We can get it from an infected animal, like this little kitty here that has a little lesion on the face. And last but not least, especially so for fungal infections, we can acquire them from the environment. Because, as mentioned before, these fungal stages can remain infectious in the environment for up to 2 years. The mange mites, however, will only survive a short period of time in the environment, but they can also be spread, for example, with clippers that have contaminated skin from an infected animal from them. And then here we have this image of the foot. For example, athlete's foot is a skin fungus as well at cause for this condition. So how does this look in humans? There are very few images that I found on the World Health Organization and CDC websites. And this is where I got this description. What is typical, the first infection with scabies will generally take several weeks, 2 to actually 8 weeks, until the symptoms appear. Yet during this period, the person can already be infectious to other humans as well. So this is very contagious. When the second infection is acquired, this is usually symptomatic really quick. This is linked to the fact that the reaction and the symptoms that humans experience are actually linked to an allergic reaction, which takes some time to develop the first time around, but for a second infection, our immune system reacts much quicker. Scabies causes very severe itch. This is often even more so at night, and then we see these whelps and then pustules, as you can see in these pictures here. Similar to animals, because of the severe itch, the scratching will often cause secondary bacterial infections and fungal infections as well. Here's some images of ringworm in humans. It's described as a common fungal infection causing a circular rash shaped like a ring that is usually red and itchy. So ringworm too can be itchy, but it tends to be much less itchy than burrowing mites are. As mentioned before, it develops slowly. It can be a single lesion, but it can also develop into something like this. There are different locations depending on what parts are exposed. And again, similar to animals, immunocompromised humans are what's called predisposed. So if you develop a ringworm infection, it is also recommended to check with your doctor to ensure your immune system's health. So how do we know that we have it? We are not diagnosing any diseases through a presentation here, but this needs to be confirmed by a licensed veterinarian in animals and a medical doctor in humans. But in general, in animals, we use the clinical signs, the somewhat typical lesions, and then skin scrapings to identify either fungal stages or mites. We have to know that these tests can often be false negative, and one negative test result does not mean that the animal does not have these parasites. It is generally required to do these skin scrapings up to 3 to 5 times. And when it comes to skin fungi, we have an additional method here with the so-called wood slam that you see in this image here. About 50% of skin fungi may fluoresce in the woods lamp. And that's what you can see here. This is actually a tamandua mouth, the same one from the picture before, with this woods lamp showing very strong fluorescence, all where we could before see the lesions on the mouth. In humans, it is similar that the clinical symptoms help to suspect this diagnosis. And then I have actually not heard of skin scrapings in humans. I assume they potentially should be done as well. And I just noted here, if you have itchy rashes on you and you're working with animals, remember to tell your physician that you've had contact with animals to include this as a differential. There is a fungal culture to confirm fungal infections, but this is usually a slow-growing culture. So many times treatment will be instated before the fungal culture confirms the diagnosis. So most importantly, how do we prevent these diseases? Number one, keeping your pets healthy protects you, and keeping them on regular preventatives for mites so that they do not acquire these mites or maintain these mites and do not infect you. If you do see any lesions on your pets, we recommend cleaning them with a antiseptic and keeping them under close observation and having them checked by a veterinarian to make sure that your pets who may share close quarters with you do not carry these infectious diseases that you could get from them. We recommend using proper protective equipment, so wearing gloves when working with infected animals. And of course, we have to remember that they could be infected without showing signs. In humans, we just want to ensure that you are aware of these diseases, and especially for immune-compromised humans, the recommendation is actually to avoid contact if possible. There are some special recommendations and guidelines by the CDC as well for immunocompromised humans who may have a pet with either of these diseases that are linked down here. So it is recommended, as always, to wash your hands after touching animals. Another recommendation on the CDC website was to, for example, vacuum to remove skin flakes and other potentially infectious agents from your immediate environment, and or wearing shoes in contaminated environment. And there is a whole long list in these references. So a couple more CDC images here To remind you, always wash your hands after touching, feeding, or playing with your pets. Take your pet to the vet. That will help keep them healthy and happy, and it will keep you healthy as well. A little bit on treatments. So we cannot, again, prescribe treatments in a presentation like this, but it requires a veterinary or physician's examination to differentiate what is it that you are dealing with, because fungal, parasitic, and bacterial infections may have some semi-characteristic looks to them, but very often overlap, and they cannot be differentiated without these diagnostics mentioned before, aka microscopy or culture. And then there are different antifungal as well as antiparasitic treatments that will be prescribed, starting oftentimes with ointments and localized treatments. But when we have very severe progressed infections, then it may come to generalized infections and also systemic treatments. One last point here for fungal infections. In general, there are very long treatments because fungi develop slowly and the treatment also takes a long time. And it is often not completed, which then leads to reoccurrence. So here are some resources that were used and that we recommend for you to check into to find a little more information on keeping pets and people healthy, as well as CDC references on scabies and ringworm, as well as prevention and what to do if you have an infected pet. And then for veterinarians and other health professionals, we also very highly recommend the Companion Animal Parasite Council, which has guidelines on many parasitic diseases, including all of these zoonotic diseases, including these here. So please do not hesitate to send us any questions right now via chat, via email, and we look forward to hear from you and hope this helps you to stay safe. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was the presentation on mange and ringworm under the topic of zoonosis. And as we know, zoonotic diseases are diseases that can affect animals and humans, and animals include our pets and wildlife. So again, if you have any questions, you can ask on the comment section. And we will be moving on to the trivia. Back to trivia one, actually, since we made a mistake on the option. Okay. So the question is the same, but the options change from A to H, right? So this is your opportunity to type out the correct question. We apologize for that. That was our fault. We'll be leaving the question here for a few seconds, and then we will be moving on to question number 2. So the options for this again is A, I am a agouti, an agouti. B, I am a gibnut. C, I am a tapir. D, I am a juvenile. I am an adult. F, I am a game species. G, I am Belize's national animal. H, I cannot be hunted legally. So there's the question, the option, sorry. All right, so now we can move on to question number 2, and then we'll get back to the answer for question number 1 right after this. if someone gets it correct. So the second question is related to the presentation that you just saw. The question is, zoonotic scabies is spread how? Option A, sarcoptic mites can be passed on through direct contact with infected animals or humans. B, sarcoptic mites can be passed on through direct contact with asymptomatic animals and humans. C, sarcoptic mites are most commonly spread via environmental contamination. D, all of the above. E, A, and B only. So send in your answers in the comment section and then we will get back to that. And now again looking at the comments for the answers to question number 1. We still don't have all the correct options answered yet. So maybe we could move on to the other segment and then come back to the answers for both question 1 and 2 after this next segment of the live.
So
All right.
yeah, so just right before we wanna Calvin will be explaining a bit about who's gonna be speaking with us and what he's gonna be speaking about, right? And our topic is actually jaguars as conflict species, right? So I would say a very important animal, a very important wildcat for us here in Belize. And you wanna tell us who's gonna be on screen, Calvin?
All right. So we have Florentino Chia, who is the Jaguar Conflict Officer at Yaxche Conservation Trust, and he will be introducing to us what Jaguar Conflict is, what the work that Yaxche is doing with Jaguar Conflict and the community around the area that they manage, and how they mitigated some cases of Jaguar conflict in these communities. So,
All right, so thank you, Mr. Florentino, and let's go with the presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Florentino Chia, the Wildlife Officer at Yaxche Conservation Trust. So today I will be presenting to you about the human-wildlife conflict and Yaxche's effort in regards to the human-jaguar conflict. So what is human-wildlife conflict? So human-wildlife conflict refers to the negative interaction between human and wildlife, subsequently having an adverse effect on each other. So as human population continues to grow, there is a demand for more space and resources, and human and wildlife continue to interact and compete for resources, and often it leads to conflict. So deforestation from human development and agriculture expansions are the major causes of human-wildlife conflict. So whenever habitat loss continues to persist, wildlife are pushed to nearby farms and communities, and that's where they come in close contact with humans and often leads to conflict. So this both have an adverse effect on human and wildlife, and in most cases humans often use lethal control for conflict resolution. However, lethal control has a negative impact on the wildlife population and overall ecosystem. So now I will be talking about the human-jaguar conflict. Human and jaguars share a common landscape for both space and resources. So to strive towards coexistence, we must understand the ecological role that jaguars play, as well as the importance of conserving their habitats, because these ecosystems help provide ecosystem goods and services to which we as people depend on. So human-jaguar conflict is a conservation issue, both having a negative impact on communities and towards the jaguar population. So it is therefore imperative that we find immediate intervention in order to reduce or prevent conflict. So one of the ways how we could reduce conflict using non-lethal method is with the use of mitigation measures. With the use of mitigation measures and practicing proper husbandry, it can help reduce and prevent predator attacks on livestock. Because most of the time conflict issues are between farmers and jaguars, where jaguars tend to predate on calves. Yaxche's Human Jaguar Conflict program was established in 2016, and the programs focus on education and outreach in the Mayabolan landscape. So in 2017, Yaxche launched an education campaign entitled Keep Cows, Save Jaguars, with the aim of raising awareness on the importance of jaguar and learning to live in coexistence. However, in mid-2017, the program shifted its focus and started to work directly with cattle farmers who has been experiencing human-jaguar conflict, where jaguar was predating on their livestock. So in the same year of 2017, that's where Yaxche piloted its first mitigation measures. So they recruited 9 farmers as part of a demonstration farm. These farmers has been experiencing repeated attacks from jaguars. So with these selected farms, Yaxche was able to provide technical support via mitigation measures for these farmers. Then in 2019, 2 grad students from the University of Colorado conducted a case study to evaluate the effectiveness of these different mitigation measures. So the different mitigation measures include lights, such as fox light, solar light, and motion sensor light. When it comes to songs, they integrated donkeys among livestock as well as song recorders. For fencing, they implemented secure fencing, electric fencing, and building a proper corral. So the finding from the case study concluded that foxlight was the most effective in deterring jaguar from the pasture, followed by proper fencing and building a proper corral. So with this study showing the different findings, we were able to produce the education materials highlighting the different mitigation measures that farmers can implement on their farms. So today the program focused on responding to conflict whenever communities report jaguar attacks. So we conduct site visit to assess the area where the attack has occurred, and also we deploy a camera in an effort to document the predator that is involved in the conflict. And also we have the education component where we host annual radio show in the month of November just to spread awareness on jaguars, the importance of jaguar, their threats, and the different mitigation measures that can be used to reduce jaguar attacks. We also work with 7 cattle farmers that were part of the demonstration farms. So these farms are considered jaguar-friendly farms because they have fox light set up on their farms, and we have camera deployed around their farms to monitor jaguar activities. So just for this year, we responded to 10 conflict issues that was reported to Yaxche from different communities in the MGL. These different communities include Indian Creek, San Miguel, Colombia, Mofredai, and Big Falls. So just from the site visit, we have seen that jaguars mainly attack dogs and calves. Other mitigation measures that farmers can implement on their farms include the use of breeding season. So farmers can establish a breeding season for their livestock, because if calves are born seasonally, the farmer can put extra care and protections towards their newborn. Next is the proper disposal of carcass. So proper disposal of carcasses helps prevent attracting jaguars around the farm. So it is recommended for farmers to bury their carcasses after they slaughter their livestock or whenever their livestock passed away. The next practice that farmers can implement is the distribution of water sources. So farmers can build a water hole in their pastures just to avoid their livestock wandering off in nearby forests in search of water. Because whenever livestock are wandering in nearby forests, they are vulnerable to attacks, and building a water hole can help prevent the livestock foraging for food or water in nearby forests. So I'm coming to an end to my presentation. I hope you learn about the human-wildlife conflict, especially the human-jaguar conflict, and Yaxche's effort in human-jaguar conflict resolution. So to report any predator attack, you could always call our main office at 722-0108, or you could always reach out to the feed station at 666-8115, because here we respond to conflict just within the Toledo district. You could always follow us on our social media, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Or you could always visit our website to learn more about human-wildlife conflict. With that said, thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.
All right. We're back. So there we had it. Talk on Jaguar, human Jaguar conflict down in the Malgonian landscape that is being managed by the Yaxche Conservation Trust, more specifically Florentino. And we would like to give him a huge thanks for this um, collaboration that he did with us concerning Jaguar conflict and the work they do. So moving on to the answers for question 1 and 2, and we have question 1 on the screen now. And the correct answer for this question, which was a bit tricky, the answers were options D, B, it is an agouti, D, it's a juvenile, F, agoutis are, givnuts are game species, and H, legally, this particular individual cannot be hunted because it is a um, juvenile, right? So, in respect to a question, it being tricky, we will be still be awarding Lewin the prize for that question, and then we move on to the answer for question 2, which is E, and that was answered correctly by Crystal Luna. The answer is A, both options A and B. Right? So, Lewin and Crystal, you won yourselves prizes for this live. And to not use any more time, we could move on to the illegal wildlife trafficking examples that we have had here at the clinic that is being presented by Giann. Sorry.
Good afternoon and welcome once again. It's a pleasure having you here and learning with us as we go along. So, as a continuation to what Calvin and Mr. Chiak has already explained, and thank you very much to Yaxche and Mr. Florentino for contributing with us this way and having you all learn about what they do at Yaxche. So, as a continuation, I will be giving a small presentation about illegal wildlife traffic and crime compiled by Dr. Isabel and modified and presented by myself. So, conflict can lead to crime in that you, as an individual, as a citizen, if there's ever an animal that comes and puts you or your property or your livelihood in danger, or um, it puts you in a loss, then you do have the right to defend yourself. However, this can easily turn into crime because if you um, try to keep any part of the animal, then that becomes troublesome. As we see here, a big um, felt from a jaguar, which was confiscated by the forest department. So even though you can, worst case scenario, um, kill or trap the animal if there is immediate danger. However, you cannot keep any parts of the animal, be it felt, tooth, be it whatever part of the animal, you cannot keep it, right? You must relinquish it. And this must have been the case in this 2018 Jaguar, whereby uh, this Jaguar was found beheaded floating in the river, in the Belize River. And well, they brought it in for necropsy. And you might say, okay, without a head, what can we tell? Well, we can tell a story, dig into a little of what we see and observe. And based on this X-ray, this animal might have also been a conflict animal that easily turned to crime, right? So if someone shot it, which is very evident based on these marks that we observe around here, those are clearly radiodense lead marks, which are bullets. This animal might have been killed by some farmer or someone who, it might have been getting trouble. And right to that point, it would be okay if the person would relinquish it. However, this case went far more than that, in that they decapitated the jaguar and threw the body, the remaining corpse, in the river. This made the news, and this was a big story and very alarming for us because who would have the guts to do this and just throw it out the river, and being one of the most important animals for us here in Belize. So that was definitely a loss back in 2018, with the case of this beheaded jaguar um, found floating on the river. And this can become, to a certain extent, gruesome, and it might be something very conflicting to see. But several times we might ignore this, and then, like you see the case about this iguana, whereby the limbs were completely tore off or cut off, right? And the iguana was not put down; it was left to suffer, and that is a serious abuse. And you might say it's just an iguana, yes, but there is this tendency that we researched and read several articles in that serial killers have been shown to have abused animals before doing so to humans or killing humans, right? So animal abusers are likely to also commit violent crimes against humans. So we must keep, you know, an eye out for this, especially police officers, law enforcement, that might observe these things and say, okay, well, it's just an animal, it's okay. Might not be okay, and this might be the leading up right into a human crime if we don't do anything about it. So this is one of the important parts of this. Equally, this ocelot might have been um, killed due to some conflict. It might have been eating chickens or something of the sort. However, this was shot very closely. It had to be very close, so it might be, enclosed in a chicken cage or something like that. As you see, the frequency of the bullets here found, it's very close together, meaning it was a close shot. So So all this you can tell during a necropsy, where you do some analysis, some X-ray, and you can observe. Another thing they observed here, if you notice, these are very round and perfect spheres over here, and that happens to be marbles. And due to the position of the ocelot here, we observe that again they did have the right to defend themselves or their um, property. However, what what was happening here is that these people were trying to do taxidermy, and that is when you preserve the ocelot in order for you to put it as a display or things like that. So that is not allowed by the law, right? And they tried, and obviously they didn't have the expertise, and it went bad, right? So this was again an animal relinquished that way. Um, and it says that 30%, almost 30% of the patients received are victims of wildlife crime, and cases of abuses are rare, yet more get even more so serious. Alright, so 30% of the patients received here at the clinic are due to crime. And the turtle to your right now, it's another one of these shocking stories where it might seem small, but it has huge implications. This specific turtle, if you notice, there's a cross to the back here. The turtle was found over at Cajalpech, where there was a couple days after, a human murder, a gruesome sacrifice that put us all to shock as well. That is our neighborhood, that side, and it was something of a huge, huge um, shocker to us, and it was alarming to know that these things are going on. So, case brought to point, if someone must have noticed this turtle and wonder what is happening here with this turtle and why does this turtle have a cross, and further investigate, maybe it would be possible to let in on what kind of sacrifice and things those guys were doing. So, you know, this may be interrelated much more than we know it. This crocodile here, it was tied up and left right there to slowly die. And this was a severe case where, if you notice, it's extremely um, thin, right? It's almost bare bones. And that is because, if you notice, due to the rope or whatever that they tied here, he could not eat and he could not hunt for himself. So that is crime, abuse, right? And well, not permitted by the law, right? And after some more tragic and serious cases, um, we have orphans as well that are also involved in illegal wildlife traffic, right? But um, while you're at it, you can enjoy some of the cute pictures of these little guys. And 20% of the intakes are known to be true orphans or injured wildlife rescued by kind humans. And most times you will see these animals shut off their mothers or catched um, just to be raised, and it enters into the illegal pet trade that way, right? Because some of these animals can defend themselves to a certain extent when they're an adult, but as a baby animal, it's much harder for them to defend themselves, and humans take advantage of them and try to get them and rear them and then sell it to the market. Wildlife crime, um, we might not hear enough about it, or we might not know enough about it, or we might not talk enough about it, but however, this is known to be a very, very large business. It's linked. It's not just the wildlife, and we might see it in TV shows and think it's not happening in real life, but it is. Right? A quote from the Guardian says, "Wildlife crime ranks amongst trafficking in drugs, arms, and humans." So it's very linked to these things that are much more alarming and serious, like drugs, arms, and even humans. So, like I said, getting in on these animal abuses case or animal trafficking cases, it lets us in on more alarming and serious cases that we have to do as well. WWF says it's wildlife crime is a big business run by dangerous international networks. Wildlife and animal parts are trafficked much like illegal drugs and arms. It says by its very nature, it's almost impossible to obtain a reliable figure for the value of illegal wildlife trade. Experts at traffic, the Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network estimate that it runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. So these um, criminals, they do not submit their taxes or report their numbers, obviously. However, due to estimates, we know that this is a very, very big business that is no way to stop in the near future unless we try to work together and put an end to it. However, looking at the reality of things is that um, the main driver for crime in itself and especially wildlife trafficking is poverty. People need to make a living out of something, and when they have limited resources and very short opportunities or no opportunities at all, they will make opportunities of what they have around them. And sadly, in some cases, their only option would be trafficking wildlife. So it's a global issue, and it's not just here. It's not just here in Belize. We might not know it's here in Belize in the first place, but it is, and it is all around the world. And a couple of these implications is that all native wildlife trade in Belize is legal, right? If you want to sell an animal, you need to have a dealer's permit. It's a very, very known issue to occur when you have domestic trade, very casual trade or selling of these animals. It's very common, and people do not know it's illegal, right? You need a permit from the forestry department to do this. Um, International trade, we have the scarlet macaws, which are poached from here and transported into Guatemala, and it's something that's cross borders, right? A big network, something that is very, very hard to fight against. Some of the causes of death, and more often, you would see these animals, you know, they suffer when they capture them, when they transport them, and if they do manage to survive that, as you will see in a few, it's hard for them to live in captivity due to malnutrition. They won't get the diet that they need as they would in the wild.
Alright.
All right, and there's so much more cases that we have um, to tell you about, and just to name a few species that we see very common here at the clinic. Um, Parrots, the Amazonian parrots, the monkeys, coatis, kinkajous, crocs, especially we have scarlet macaws and ducks and many other more species. And based on those interesting cases that we already saw, we have so much more, and I go more into detail with more of these cases and different investigations for these patients that we get here at the clinic. So that is just half of the video. So tune in for our next live for the second part to that, right? If you want to hear more about these exciting stories, there's so much things that we have seen here and included in this presentation. So um, follow for part two.
When is the next live?
So the next live, we have it scheduled already for January the 19th, right? January the 19th is going to be a Wednesday again at 1 o'clock. You can join us through Facebook. We're going to open up an event page which you can follow as we go, and we'll also keep you updated and keep you informed, and also some very informative posts that we do pre every live.
All right. So moving on with the program, we will go right into our third question for today. And the third question is, as someone who raises livestock, what can I do to prevent predation from jaguars? Option is I can't do anything. A, nothing. B, get a donkey to protect my herd. C, stop raising livestock. D, use light and sound to deter jaguars from coming to kill the livestock. And E, call and report to First Department if I do have a Jaguar conflict. So those are the options there, and you could comment your answers in the comment section, and then we will get back to that in just a few.
All right. So for those who want, send us a message to see
Schedule
how you
pickup.
get your schedule pickup for your price.
And those winners are Lewin and
Crystal.
Crystal. So you could message us on Facebook and let us know when you can pick up your prize. So again, we have new limited edition t-shirts for sale, and this one has a parrot behind it and some other animals around it, signifying wildlife, right? Obviously. And then we also have some more calendars again, and again, we want to invite you to join the Wildlife Ambassador Program if you are interested in wildlife conservation and education, and if you wish to receive um, free training from this program. You are all welcome. Yes. So let's see if anyone has answered.
Lewinson and answered already.
And can we have the answers on?
Sure.
Since we have the correct answer already for question 3, again by Lewin Sib. Um, he is correct. B, we could get a donkey to protect the herd. D, you could also use lights and sounds to deter the jaguars from getting into the pastures. And E, we can call and report to First Department to investigate Jaguar conflict cases. And if you live in the Maya Golden landscape, you could also call Yaxche.
All right. So congrats,
Lewin.
Lewin. Let us know how you can pick up your prize, right? I think he won a calendar, stickers, and a wristband because he answered 2, right?
Okay, well, I believe that is all time we have for now, right? Do you have anything else to
That would
add?
be it. Just let us know. Workshops are intended to start around February latest. So if you have not sent your email or any means of interest, please do so ASAP so that we sign you up to our mailing list and you get updates on the program. Remember, anyone can be. We're looking for enforcement officers, but we also want community ambassadors as well. right? So please let us know if you're interested. We would be more than happy to have you as a part of the Wildlife Ambassador Program.
Alright, we will be logging off now and leaving you with this highlights of 2021 here at the clinic.
That's right. So myself, Gian, and Calvin logging out for today, and see you next month. Enjoy the rest of your day.